Hejsa. Now we're going to turn our blocks from last week, or the last video, into blocks like this, which I've used to make up the bigger blocks. So here I have a whole pile of them, all nicely pressed, and I've just pressed them to the darkest fabric. You can open the seam and press that if you prefer it like that. I don't think it matters a lot how you do it. So now I have multiple sets of 4 that I have sewn together diagonally, as you saw in the last video. And now comes the fun, but also, I wouldn't say frustrating, but you have to split up all your sets and put them together with the other sets. And the way that I tend to do it is that I just go through my pile and see, do I think this is a good combination? Does this bring me joy when I look at it? And if it does, I put it in one pile. I'm not 100% sure that this one does, so let's say it's a no. Quite like this one. This one, not super loving it. That one as well. And here I've actually got 2 that are exactly the same, but they were not made from the same. It's not the same set. Anyway, in that pile. So then I just go through them all. I'll just do that very quickly. And it's just a sort of gut feeling. And it's just one way to divide them. You can do whatever you want. If it's not as scrappy as this, maybe you can go by color or by value. But hopefully I will end up with a fairly even number in both of my stacks. Right, so now I have my 2 stacks. They feel sort of fairly even. And then I just start. Actually, what I should do is I should take them and move half of one stack to the bottom so that they're not right at the same stack level. And then again, I try to be very sort of quick about it and not think about it, because now I want to pick 2 put together. Those 2, no. Maybe if I take this one, those 2 together. They can go together. And again, because this is not a quote where I'm super bothered about how it actually turns out, I'm not going to worry too much about how aesthetically pleasing I find it. Let's see. Those two. No. I'm trying to keep as much contrast between the 4 prints that will be in my block, or will be in each block. I'm not sure if I said in the previous video anything about size, but I think I mentioned to cut the initial squares an inch larger than what you will need. So obviously if you want to end up with 7.5 inch squares, you want to cut them to 8.5. And these would actually be quite good to make if you have some 10-inch squares that you don't know what to do with. And then you will end up with approximately 9-inch squares, maybe even 9.5 if you cut it and sew it carefully. Right, sometimes you may have to sort of rejig your pairings a little bit. So for example, I feel like these are too similar. So maybe if I take this one, that might work better. So now you have pairs of these, but it doesn't stop there. You want to again put together a stack of 4. And think about if you have enough contrast, whether that is different colors or the value or maybe the size of the prints. Again, I'm not thinking about this too much. Oh, these have got 2 reds in them, so I don't want them together. If you want to make sure that this is 100% scrappy and you don't end up with the same print or the same color in the blocks, then I would suggest to not have any repeats of the fabrics. So let's say you need 42 squares, then you'd need 42 different prints. So I'm in a bit of trouble here because all of these end up with similar ones in them. So I think I'm going to go back to my original here and see. Maybe if I put this together with that one. And that can go with that one. And again, I've got two that are the same. Let's see if I can, what can I do? Maybe if I swap these two. I think I've managed to put the sets together without any double colors. So now I'm ready to put them together. And I try to, where possible, put them so that they alternate with dark at the top and dark at the bottom for the next one. Like that. I suppose you could put them together like that, but I think it works better if you put them with the diagonal going in the same direction. So if we have our so these are our blocks as they are now. So what you could do is you can, because we're about to cut through them, you could either cut through that way or at a diagonal going the other way. I think I prefer this option, so I think that's what I'm going to go with. Again, I'm lining up my squares. Doesn't have to be super precise, but one thing to keep an eye out for is if there are sort of slight differences where they're sewn together along the edges. I think that's okay. So now I got my ruler, and again I can play with the angles, and I don't cut them all at the same angle. Some may be more like this, some may be more like that. I just try to make sure that I keep around 2 inches both at the bottom and at the top. So let's just cut this. There we go. And then I take the top right one, or the top left if you prefer, and put it at the bottom. And then that will be sewn together with that. I always like to just check to see what is going to go together. I think this is alright. No, actually I think I'll move this one, because this becomes quite, it was together with this, so this becomes quite dark and quite brown, and I want to mix up the colors. So if I put this one down here, oh, somehow ended up with the same one there. I'm just going to take those two bottom ones in and put them at the top. Those are quite similar. And again, I ended up with the brown and the it's kind of a problem if you start to overthink it. Alright, that's better now. Right, so I'm going to sew these together, and I'm also going to sew all the other ones together. I have my finished pile of sewn together blocks all pressed and ready to be cut to size. So I started with 9.5 inch squares, and you can probably see that some of them are a little bit wonky where they're sewn together. I'm hoping that I can still get an 8.5 inch square from each of them. And I think this is one of the worst blocks in terms of the sort of little dog ears here. So let's see. Yeah, I can just about get an 8.5 inch square. So that is what my block looks like when it's done. Oh, one of them, because obviously they're all completely different. Sometimes if I have been careful with how I've sewn it, let's see if it works with this one, I'm able to cut it at a slight angle. So let's see, maybe the other way. Yes, I can just about got the 8.5 inch. Nope, I actually placed my ruler wrong on it, so it will fit an 8 inch square. So Now I need to think what I'm going to do. This is not quite the plan. I think what I'm going to do is, because I want them to be 8.5 inch, I'm going to trim this to 8 inches. And then before I sew it to anything else, I'm just going to add a strip of something there. It's just a scrappy quilt, so it doesn't really matter. Alright, so I better put that to one side so I don't accidentally start sewing it. But yeah, this is what the blocks will look like. All scrappy and wonky. And I really like that. I don't know if you can hear Blake snoring in the background. Anyway. So I'm gonna need to trim all these squares. So I think we'll stop here for today, and then next week I'll show you how to put them together. So I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please give the video a like and follow if you want to make sure that you see the next video. I hope you have a great day and happy stitching.